Hello, Lifecycle Insights users. This is Alex with Lifecycle Insights. And in this brief video, we're going to walk through organizing assessment items into templates and building and customizing those templates to suit your needs. And we'll even touch on when it makes sense to customize one of our existing templates, or when it makes sense to bring or build your own template, and how we can handle that in the system. So we're going to jump in right now into the assessments section of the platform on the left. And then we're going to go down to managing assessment templates on the bottom right. You'll see at the top we have a bunch of items imported into our development environment or into our demo environment. But you really want to scroll down. Yours is probably fairly empty at the top. And you should see this. The following templates have been shared and are available to use. If you look here, you'll see a bunch of policy and procedure type assessments. You'll see a NIST assessment. There's a CMMC assessment up here. Still needs to be updated to version 2 once they finally figure out what version 2 is going to look like. But most of our partners start with either the LCI default assessment or the maturity model assessment. And what I want to talk about with these two is the different kind of assessment that you'll see. So the default assessment, if we drill into it, is made up of categories like hardware, business application software, security, continuity, policy and procedure, and strategy, right? So these are all items in or categories where the items that are in them are all similar to each other. So in regulatory compliance, we're just touching on how is the client stacking up against their HIPAA compliance obligations or their NIST obligations. In hardware, we're talking about, hey, are there servers, are there firewalls, are there switches, storage, things like that? Are they up to snuff? The maturity model assessment, by contrast, is going to be where we start to rank things based on how far through cybersecurity maturity should the customer be before they worry about those particular items. So we have foundational, emerging, intermediate, and advanced, and then high security items. And each of these is scored in a situation where you might only take the customer through level 1 or level 2, or where you might take the customer all the way from level 1 up to level 5. And this brings up one of the really important things about how Lifecycle Insights scoring modules works. The scoring is only going to be calculated over the categories that you actually fill in. So if you have a customer who only needs to go through level 2 in a category-based assessment like this, or a maturity model-based assessment like this, then we'll stop scoring the customer at the end of level 2 here, where you stop answering questions. So, do we have the network documented? Do we have mobile device policy? Do we have VPN and remote access properly configured? Instead of having to go down in and deduct points for them not having a SIM in place, for example, for a really small office who, may never get to that maturity level and they're just not going to need it. So this is a unique thing about Lifecycle Insights, where you can actually build an assessment that is based on a group of categories, and it may start where you only score the customer at onboarding through level 1, but after they've been with you for 90 days, you're scoring them through level 2, and after they've been with you for 6 months or a year, you're scoring level 3. And a good example of this is Microsoft 365. When I'm doing pre-sales, when I'm just looking at the customer for the first time, if they're in Microsoft 365, I'm probably marking them as green because that's my favorite product for them, and it's where I want to go ahead and see this customer support. It's where I believe this customer is supportable when we bring them on. We don't have to do an email migration to bring them on. Now, once we've onboarded them and we've been working with them for a little bit, it's not going to take long before I expect all of their Microsoft 365 instances to meet some best practices, right? So in level 2, I'm probably going to say, are they in Microsoft 365? But do they also have some basic policies deployed, like all of the mobile devices that connect to 365 are encrypted, all the users are using MFA, all the emails that are coming and going have a banner at the top that says, hey, this email originated from outside of your organization, right? So some basic security policies. And the longer I'm working with that client, the more we're locking that instance down, right? So down here, we're probably blocking zip files and weird attachment types, and we're probably reading messages with some automation to say, hey, this message looks like it went out containing PII or PHI or something like that. And we probably want to set up some advanced filtering in 365. And the list goes on, right? There's a bunch of things you can configure in 365 as you get deeper into the tool, as they've been using it longer. But we can't just onboard a customer and immediately lock down everything in their Microsoft 365, or we're going to have a support nightmare with nobody being able to work. So that's how the two different types of templates work. I want to talk about a third scenario where maybe the templates that we have aren't what you need and you want to bring in your own template. So if you already have some best practices that you've been using, or you have a specific compliance standard that you're regulated towards, you can do an import from CSV. And on import from CSV, what you're going to be able to do is actually download our sample template, which will tell you exactly how to lay out the CSV file. And then you can import and upload that file. So you can literally just click on Choose File. We'll walk you out to where you need to go to pull that file back in, and then we'll give you the ability to import that template where you can answer your own questions and best practices. Probably that stuff you've been doing in a spreadsheet for the last 3, 4, or 5 years at your MSP. You'll be able to bring all those in and answer them in a Lifecycle Insights template. But we're going to assume today that you've picked your template, you know which one that you want to use, and now we're going to go ahead and customize it a little bit. So I want to talk about the types of customization we can use. So we're going to go down here to the LCI default template. We're going to open this up. We're going to talk about the ways that we could customize it. So once we have the template open, you see here that I can add an item from a template, or I can add an existing item. Add an existing item adds a question that might be in use on another template, or might be just built in my item bank and have not been imported into this assessment yet. So if I click Add Existing Item, I can go ahead and either above or below this item, I can add an existing item, and this gives me my entire item bank. And I'd literally be able to go out here and find all of my items that have the word workstation in them. Pardon the slow search in my test environment here. It has over 1,000 items in the database, and it just gets a little flaky. But I could go over here and literally go grab a sample item or go grab any one of these items. As soon as I save it, it's going to pull into my template. It's going to move itself above the asset inventory, and I'm going to be able to customize that item. The other option is that I add an item from a template. And if I add an item from a template, I can add a yes or no template or a stoplight template. A yes or no template is literally going to be a red answer and a green answer when it comes back in, right? You get a red and green. Or I can do a stoplight template, which is going to give me red, yellow, green. On any of those, once I've imported it, if I don't like the options that I've got, or if I need to add another type of an answer, I can do an add response. When it adds a response, I can choose whether it's not applicable, unknown, at risk, needs attention, or acceptable risk or satisfactory. So I'm going to grab an acceptable risk answer here and just customize it here. Now I've added an acceptable risk answer, right? So obviously I need to fill in all of these. I've got some errors because I haven't filled in what my assessment item is. Right, but once I do that, my errors will clear themselves out, and I'll be able to save these. I'm not going to save this because I don't want to break this template, but you get the concept of how easy it is to add items. What I would like to do is take a step back and show you guys how the other thing about managing these assessment items is that we can literally, we can literally reorder an assessment. Let's say that you like the content of our assessment, but it's not in the order that you want it in. You can flip over to Layout View. This makes it very easy to reorder an assessment. In Layout View, I could grab workstations and move them into a different category. Or I can even move my categories around. Let's say that I want to talk about policy and procedure first. I can grab that entire category and move it to the top, and everything else moves around it. So you see, I have a pretty easy way to just drag and drop to move things around in my assessments. To create the assessment that I'm really looking for. And all I would do is click Save Changes over here if I wanted to save those changes. So that's a little bit about how to use and build an assessment, and even how to import an assessment if you had a specific custom one that you wanted to work with. What you'll find at the end is that your final saved assessment is up here. I will encourage you to make sure that your assessment name is something that you want your customer to be able to see, because in a couple more videos, we're going to show you exactly how to run an assessment event, how to present all of this to your customer. The assessment template name does show up on your customer's output. So I recommend something like the MSP name and cybersecurity risk assessment, or maybe it's just your cybersecurity risk assessment. But you're going to want to make sure that, as opposed to some of our goofy names that say who built it or whatever, that you really have something here that describes the assessment in a way that you're okay with it being out in front of your customer. So that kind of wraps up how we organize the assessment into a template, how we build and customize those templates. They're pretty simple and straightforward. Obviously, if you have any additional questions, you can click on the link, the help link in the bottom right corner of the platform down here. You can do contact us and create a support ticket, or you can simply email your questions to support@lifecycleinsights.io. Thanks and have a great day.